This is True Grit.
Alright guys, today's video is about building our own arm wrestling table. There are many around, from $300 up to $1,000. My opinion, those $300-400 arm wrestling tables are not worth the money you pay for them. They are expensive, they don't last long, and they're really not nicely built. So today we're going to build an arm wrestling table, solid, sturdy, perfect for practice and training on, and we're gonna do it with some work, maybe one day of work, and if you follow the procedure and my suggestions, spending as little as $100. And please guys, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Alright guys, let's start with the shopping list. Each single item that you're going to need to realize this project is gonna have a link below in the description so you can buy it online. But let me just give you a suggestion before we start. Do not go and buy everything that is in the list. The vast majority of these items are easy to find around and you won't need to buy them. Just take your time to look for them and this project will be way cheaper. Another very quick suggestion, gather all the material that we're going to need before you start working. So once you start, in 4 or 5 hours of work, you're gonna have your table built and ready to use. And please follow each step carefully so you don't risk ruining material or wasting it. We'll start by building the frame of the table, the actual structure, and for that we're gonna need metal pipes. Best pipes I could find around are those of the common shelves that you can find around the Home Depot, Sears. Those are 1-inch diameter chrome steel metal poles, very tough. And almost always they come with adjustable and removable feet pads, which are going to be very useful for our table. We're going to need about 34-36 feet of metal pipes, so if you can find them around, I suggest you buy this clothing rack available at Lowe's. This got 6 legs, each leg is 6 foot long, so you're gonna have 36 feet of poles for only $120. To put the frame of the table together, we're going to need 4 corner connectors 1-inch diameter and 6 T-connectors 1-inch diameter. Both of these are not very easy to find around, so I suggest you buy them on Amazon. Link is in the description as for every other item. This is just about everything that we're going to need to build the frame of the table. So now let's start gathering what we need to build the tabletop. First, we need a piece of plywood 27 by 38 inches. If you can find it around, just go at Home Depot, buy any piece of wood that is big enough to be cut at 27 by 38 inches. Make sure that it's at least 3/4 inch thick and have it cut over there. They'll do it for you. Have it cut at the right measures, 27 by 38. Once we have the board for our tabletop, we need to find something to cover it up that it's soft and we can train and arm wrestle on top, but it's strong enough to not get ruined. The best option is the foam flooring. You can find it on Amazon, it's very cheap, or you can just look around for any yoga mat and use that to cover the wood of our tabletop. I bought this heavy duty 3/4 inch thick foam flooring that I found at Costco. It's pretty expensive, but I found it half the price, so it was worth buying, and it's very high quality. With this same material, we're gonna realize our elbow pads and touch pads. For the end pegs, very easy solution. You just need to find or buy 2 3/4 inch floor flanges and 2 pipe nipples 3/4 inch as well, 8-inch long. I'll show you later on how to use them. Also find or buy 8 flathead bolts 1/4 inch by an inch and a half, and some washer that fits this bolt. We then need any kind of duct tape, any color you like, whatever you can find around. You don't need to buy it. We'll need this to cover our elbow pads, touch pads, and hand pegs. We then need one of these plastic couch covers that we're going to use to cover the tabletop. Very inexpensive, you can find it on Amazon. We also need to buy at least 20 of these little magnets, very strong. I'll show you later on how to use them. They're not so easy to find, so I suggest you buy them on Amazon. The link is in the description. We'll use them to fix our elbow pads and touch pads on top of the table. We then need 8 zip ties, at least 12 inches long. Any kind is good. If you have to buy them, buy the reusable one. They're gonna come in handy if you wanna take the tabletop off the frame without removing the foam flooring. And last but not least, some glue, any kind, as far as it's multi-purpose. This is just about anything that we need for this project. We need to start by building the table frame, which is going to be the longest and a little bit more difficult part. But follow the procedure, and guys, we're gonna be out of the woods in no time. Alright, let's start working. Open the box, set aside the shelves. We don't need them for this project, and keep all the poles and the fittings that you find inside the box. As you can see, this clothing rack has got poles all made of 2-foot sections pipes. Another cool feature if you want to disassemble the table and take it around. Let's start by opening the pack with the 6 bottom sections. Another cool feature is that the bottom sections are already equipped with the adjustable and removable feet pads, which are very useful for an arm wrestling table. Keep 4 of them and set 2 aside for later. We don't need them now. Once you have the 4 bottom section set aside, find the bag with the 4 upper sections. Very easy to identify because they are the only 6 sections with a cap on top. Keep 4 of them and set 2 aside. You'll see that each upper section has got a file fitting on the other side, so mount every upper section on top of every bottom section, align them properly and screw them in very tight, but don't force them because you risk ruining the filing of the file fitting. We'll end up with 4 foot long pipe sections with which we're gonna cut to make the legs of our table. Let's now open the corner connectors and the T-connectors. Make sure you don't lose any screw inside the bag so you don't trash it. Loosen the screws, check that the connectors perfectly fit on our pipes. They should perfectly fit, they are 1 inch diameter, and there should be just enough room to tie up the screws and perfectly fix the connector to the pipe. Now please follow each step very carefully so we don't risk ruining and wasting pipe material. Get one of the legs and insert a corner fitting all the way in on its top. Tie up the corner fitting so it doesn't risk moving, and then measure from the top of the corner fitting down the leg 38.5 inches and mark the leg at this spot. Now measure from the bottom of the leg all the way up to the mark that we just did without considering the adjustable fit pad. In our case, this measure is 9 inches. We now need to flip the leg over and report these 9 inches from the top of the corner fitting down the leg and mark the leg again. Notice that reporting these 9 inches from the top of the leg, we're cutting off the excess from the top and leave the bottom with the adjustable fit pad. Now remove the corner connector from the top of the leg, report the cutting mark that we just did all the way around the leg, and let's get ready to cut the leg. If you have it, use a vise, or otherwise hold the leg firmly on a flat surface. Cut the leg all around the mark that we just did. You can do it with a very cheap hacksaw, or if you have it, which is going to be much faster, with an angle grinder with an appropriate metal cutting disc. You'll notice that these specific pipes, they have a dent every inch and will be always cutting along one of the dents. That's going to help you be precise with your cut. Once you're done cutting, smoothen up the edge with sandpaper or with the angle grinder disc if you have it. Take the cap off the top of the excess that you just cut off and put it back on the leg. Put back the corner fitting on top of the leg, slightly tighten it so it doesn't move, and measure from the top of the corner fitting all the way down the leg without considering the adjustable fit pad. Then remove again the corner fitting. Be careful because it's very easy to lose tightening screws on these corner fittings. Align the leg that we just cut with the other 3 legs that we have ready to be cut, and report the cutting length on these 3 legs. We can now proceed to cut the remaining 3 legs. We'll do it with an angle grinder, way faster, way easier. For each leg, As we did for the first one, just smoothen up the cut and remove the top cup of the leg from the excess part that we cut off and put it back on top of the leg. Let's then mount on top of each leg a corner fitting. Let's tie up every corner fitting very firmly. We won't remove them anymore. When we're done, let's get all the 4 legs with the corner fitting on top, align them, square them up, and make sure that all the legs are exactly the same size. Let's guys now open the last pack of 2-foot sections pipes. Put aside 2, keep 4 of them and join them together, screw them one into another as we did for the legs of the table. We'll end up with 2 pipes, each 4 foot long. Let's now measure exactly 3 feet from the top of the pipe and mark both pipes at 3 feet. We can now proceed once again to cut the pipes with the angle grinder and smoothen the cut edge as we did for the legs. We'll end up with 2 pipe sections, each along 3 feet. These 2 pipes will be the long sides of the upper frame of the table. We now need to mount on each side of the pipes that we just cut one of the legs that we did before. Insert one end of the pipe all the way into the corner fitting on top of the leg and tie it up. Repeat the procedure with another leg on the other end of the pipe. Once you mounted the one leg on each side of the pipe, put the whole structure flat on a table and make sure that the legs are perfectly aligned. Repeat the procedure for the other 3-foot pipe section that we cut. Mount one leg on each end of the pipe and straighten it up on a flat surface. At this point we have the left and right half frame of the table ready and we need to join them together. Get 2 more of the 2-foot pipe sections that we have available and remove the file fitting on top of them. Insert one of them on each top corner of one of the half frames and tie them up. Let's now get this half frame and join it together with the other half frame by inserting the 2 pipe sections sticking out of the upper corners of this frame into the upper corners of the other half frame and tie them up. Accurately check that the 2 short sides of the table are exactly the same length and the same for the 2 long sides, and flip the whole structure upside down. Remove the 4 adjustable fit pads from the bottom of the legs and insert 1 T-connector at the bottom of each leg. Insert the T-connectors leaving the tie-up screws on the outside of the frame. Make sure that the edge of each T-connector is perfectly aligned with the edge of each leg, and make sure that the free insert of each T-connector is exactly pointing towards the other leg on the short side. Reinstall an adjustable fit pad on each leg. Now get 2 more of our 2-foot sections and remove the file fittings. Mark each section at exactly its half and install a T-connector in the middle of it. Make sure to install the T-connector exactly in the middle of each section. Now let's go back to our frame and install one section between the legs on the left side and the other section between the legs on the right side. Adjust these 2 sections in a way that the T-connector in the middle of each section has got the free insert pointing exactly at the free insert on the other side. And once again, make sure that both sides of the frame are exactly the same length. If you follow the procedure accurately, at this point you should be left with only 2 2-foot long bottom sections. Remove the fit pad on each of them, get a corner fitting of one of the leftover pieces of pipes and install it on top of one of the bottom sections and join it together with the other one. On the pipe section that we just put together, let's now draw a cutting mark 5 1/4 inch from each end. Check that we have exactly 3 feet between the two marks. Let's get back to our vise and let's cut off 5¼ inches on each side of the pipe section. As usual, make sure to smoothen up the cut edges, and at the end measure the pipe section we end up with and make sure that it's exactly 3 feet. This last pipe section is gonna join the two bottom sides of the table, so let's go ahead and mount them between the two T-connectors that we put on the bottom of the table in the middle of the short sections. Make sure it goes all the way in, tie the T-connectors up, and then measure the distance between the two legs of the table on the bottom side. Flip the table over, measure the two long top sides and along the legs on the long sides on the left and on the right, and make sure that they're all exactly the same measure. Our table frame is finally done, and guys, I can assure you that we are way more than halfway through. Building the tabletop is gonna be easy and fast. Alright, all very nice and smooth so far, so we can finally get to build the tabletop. Let's get our plywood board, which we have already cut at the right size, and mark it halfway through, 13½ inches on both its short sides. Then, at the mark that we just did, make a perpendicular mark measuring 2½ inches from the edge of the board towards the inside. Then, on both sides of the board, using the measure tape as a ruler, extend the marks that we did a couple of inches in both directions. We'll end up with an about 4-inch cross on both sides of the board. Let's now get our floor flanges, and on both sides of the board align the floor flanges holes with the legs of the cross and mark the holes on our board. Turn the board around with one of the crosses sticking out the edge of the table you're working on. Start drilling a hole on one of the marks of the holes. After the first hole, just check that the bolts exactly fit and they don't have too much slack. Go ahead and drill the remaining 3 holes. Clean the sawdust, get the floor flange and place it exactly matching the holes that we just drilled. Insert a bolt in each hole, then get 4 nuts and 4 washers and apply them on the bottom side of each bolt. And then go ahead and with a screwdriver on top and a key on the bottom, tie up the flange onto the plywood board. Then turn our board 180 degrees and repeat the whole procedure on the other short side. This way we have realized the fittings for our hand pegs on both sides of the tabletop. We just need to get now our pipe nipples and make sure that they perfectly fit in the floor flange. Let's now open our foam flooring and put together 4 pieces, which are gonna be enough to cover the tabletop. Place these 4 squares of foam flooring on the floor and position the plywood board on top of them. Align it with the foam flooring edge and start cutting all around with a kitchen knife. We'll end up with a piece of foam flooring exactly the size of our arm wrestling tabletop. I'm using 3/4 inch thick foam flooring, so the one layer is enough. If you're using a yoga mat or something thinner, you may need to cut 2 layers and put them one on top of another on the tabletop to have enough thickness. Now on this foam flooring, let's mark the position of the floor flanges as we did for the plywood. Let's mark across 13½ inches from the bottom and 1½ inches inside on each side. Align the flanges also with the cross legs on each side and mark all the external perimeter of the flange and the internal one. Now mount the flange upside down on a pipe nipple and heat it up with some flame for about 10 minutes. Grab the pipe nipple with a piece of paper so you don't risk burning your hand, and with the hot flange indent its shape on each side of the foam flooring where we marked its position. Let's now remove the flange from the nipple and warm up just the nipple for a few minutes. With the nipple warmed up, let's finish to carve into the foam flooring the hole through which our hand pegs will be screwed into the flange. And to finish up the job with a pair of pliers and some scissors, let's remove the melted foam that extruded from the holes of the flange, so to leave the flange hosing flat and smooth. Let's now place our plywood board on top of the table frame, center it accurately, measuring that it's sticking out exactly the same amount on both sides and that it's perfectly aligned on the left and right side. And then let's mark underneath the board the 4 upper frame pipes with a marker. Let's then place our plywood board upside down on our working table, and let's mark the lines that we just did. On the long side, 1 foot from each end, and on the short side, 7 inches from each end. We'll end up with 4 marks for each long side and 2 marks for each short side. At these marks, let's drill a hole big enough to put inside our zip ties. Let's then proceed to insert a zip tie from the bottom up and going down again on each couple of holes on the long sides, and 1 zip tie from the bottom up on each hole on the short sides. Leave the zip ties in place. Let's get a glue bottle and let's put some spots of glue all over the board, making sure to put glue along the edges and at the corners. Then place the foam flooring on top of the board, squeeze it up and turn the board around so that the weight of the board presses on top of the foam flooring while the glue is drying up. Place some weights on top of the board and let the glue dry for a few hours. While the glue is drying, let's clean up the nipples and wrap them in the duct tape. Remove the grease on the nipples with some paper and alcohol. Accurately dry them up with a clean piece of paper. And we are ready to wrap them. Apply 3 stripes of duct tape along the nipple in a way that each stripe overlaps with the next. When you're done, squeeze the duct tape in a way that there are no air bubbles and it's sticking perfectly on the nipple. Then remove about half an inch of duct tape on one side, and on the other side cut the duct tape even with the end of the pipe nipple. Get one of the cups that we removed from our clothing rack pipes and applied it on top of the nipple to close it up. Repeat the same procedure for the other nipple. Let's now go back to our tabletop, turn it around, and on the foam flooring on the long side, mark from each end 13 inches and 20 inches. Now, where we did our marks, let's mark 2 inches from the bottom of the tabletop on the long side and draw a line along the 4 marks. Let's now mark 9 inches from the bottom into the foam flooring, and at this height, once again, let's report 13 and 20 inches from one side and 13 and 20 inches from the other side. Let's draw a line at 9 inches parallel to the one that we draw at 2 inches from the bottom, and then perpendicularly to these 2 lines, let's draw the lines at 13 inches and 20 inches from one side and 13 inches and 20 inches from the other side. We have realized 2 7x7 squares overlying 2 inches in the middle of the long side. These are gonna be the position of our elbow pads for the left and right elbow. We now need to mark the positions of the magnets that are gonna hold in place the elbow pads. So on both the top and bottom line, let's mark 1 inch from the internal vertical lines and 1 inch from each external vertical line. We'll end up with 3 marks on the top horizontal line and 3 marks on the bottom horizontal line. Let's now extend from the horizontal lines each of this mark about 2-3 inches towards the inside of our rectangle. Let's now turn the board on the other long side and repeat the exact same procedure. Let's mark 13 and 20 inches from one side, 13 and 20 inches from the other side, and then let's mark 2 inches from the bottom and 9 inches from the bottom, and then let's draw the bottom line at 2 inches, the upper line at 9 inches, and then perpendicularly to this, the lines at 13 and 20 from one side and 13 and 20 from the other side. Then once again, on the top and bottom line, let's mark 1 inch inside from each external vertical lines and 1 inch from the middle vertical lines. Once again, these 6 marks, 3 on the bottom and 3 on the top, are going to be the placement marks for our little magnets. Now with a pair of pliers, get one of the magnets and heat it up on a flame as we did for the floor flange. And once it's hot, carve at the 6 positioning marks that we did the housing for the magnet. You're going to need to reheat the magnet several times during the process. Make sure that you carve a hole just deep enough to put the magnet inside without it sticking out or being too deep into it. Of course, then turn the board on the other long side and repeat the same process on the other 6 positioning marks of the other side. Now let's put the hand peg in its place and mark 2 inches towards the inside of the table from the hand peg and 2 inches from each bottom corner of our elbow pads squares. Let's then draw a straight line from the hand pad mark to each of the other 2 marks. On each of these 2 lines, let's then mark 10 inches from the hand peg mark. Repeat the procedure on the other side of the table, 2 inches from the hand peg, 2 inches from the bottom corners, straight line on the right, straight line on the left, 10 inches from the hand peg mark on each line. Then, once again, let's take one of the magnets, heat it up on a flame, and carve the magnet position from the 10-inch mark towards the inside of the line on each side, and then from the hand pad mark towards the inside of the line on the left and on the right, and repeat the same procedure on the other side of the table. We have now carved the position of all the magnets that we're gonna need for our elbow pads and touch pads. Now we need to put an abundant amount of glue in each of the carvings and push in a magnet in each magnet position, spreading around the glue that is gonna squeeze out of the sides. It doesn't have to be a clean job, it's not gonna be visible from the tabletop, but we gotta make sure that each magnet is perfectly inside and sealed all around into its position. The most important thing in this phase is to remember that magnets are polarized. They have a positive and negative phase. Positive and positive repel each other, and negative and positive attract each other. So you gotta make sure that you put all the magnets with the same phase up to make sure that you put all the magnets in the same direction. When you're done positioning them, take one of the magnets, hold it on a side that repels the magnets on the tabletop, and go through each magnet on the tabletop and make sure that none of them is attracted by the magnet that you're holding. If some of them comes out of the carving, just turn it around and put it back in the carving on the other side. Let's get back to the foam flooring. Get one of the leftover pieces that we had when we carved the foam flooring from the tabletop, cut it straight on a side, and then from that side mark 7 inches throughout the length, and let's cut a 7 inches slice of foam flooring, and then let's mark 7 inches again and cut another 7 inches slice. Then on each of these 7 inches slice, let's mark on the long side 7 inches and 14 inches on the top and on the bottom, and let's cut at these marks. This way we have realized 4 7x7 squares. We're gonna use this foam flooring 7x7 squares to do our elbow pads, which need 2 layers. So let's get one square, put some glue all around, and place another square on top of it and squeeze it up, and repeat the same procedure with the other 2 squares. Once you're done, put them under some weight and let it dry for a few hours. Now get another leftover piece of foam flooring, which is at least 12 by 16 inches. Cut it straight on one side and then mark along the inside 12 inches all along and cut a 12 inches stripe. Turn the stripe around, cut it square on one side, and then mark 4, 8, 12 and 16 inches and cut 4 stripes of foam flooring, which are gonna be 12 by 4, and we're going to use them to do our touch pads. As we did for the elbow pads, get two of them, glue one, place the other one on top and squeeze it, then get the other two, glue one, place the other one on top and squeeze, and then both of them put under some weights and wait for a few hours for the glue to dry up. Once the glue has dried, let's go back to our tabletop. Let's make sure that the magnets that are gonna hold our elbow bags are 5 inches apart. Then let's get one elbow bag. Let's assign 1 inch from each side, top and bottom, draw a line, and on the top and bottom with a heated up magnet, let's carve 2 magnet position on one side and 2 magnet position on the other side, just slightly off the edge of the elbow bag and perfectly alongside the 2 lines that we drew. Let's then fill up with glue the 4 carvings that we made, and let's put 1 magnet on each carving, making sure that the magnets have the face that is attracted by the magnets on the tabletop facing outside. Let's seal all the housing of the magnets with glue and repeat the same procedure for the other elbow bag. Then make sure that the touchpad magnets on the tabletop are 10 inches aside. Let's get one touch bag, mark it on the bottom 1 inch from each side, and then with an heated up magnet, once again, let's carve along the middle line the magnet position 1 inch from each side. Let's fill up both housing with glue, and then let's put a magnet on each one, making sure that the magnet face that it's facing upward is attracted by the magnets on the tabletop. Repeat the same procedure for the other touch bag. While the glue on our magnets is drying up, let's take the couch cover and put it on top of the tabletop. The cover should be exactly the size of the tabletop, so just align the corners, flip the tabletop over, and then pull the long sides all the way to align the outseam with the edge of the tabletop, and fix the table cover with some staples. Do the same on the short sides and on the other long side. If you don't have staple gun, just use some double-sided tape. Doesn't have to be super strong fixing. This is just a temporary fixing. When we put the tabletop on the frame, the cover won't move anymore. Then for each zip tie, simply pierce a small hole into the cover to let the zip tie go through towards the outside, and another small hole to have the zip tie go back inside where there is its locking head. The tabletop is basically finished, and we'll see in a minute how to use the zip ties to fix the tabletop to the frame. Just another couple of things to finish up our tabletop. With a ruler and a marker, fill the position of the magnets underneath the table cover and mark it with a marker. So when we have to go place our elbow pads and touch pads, we know where to put them. Then the magnets will pull them in place on their own. And then get the hand pegs, screw them in place, fill the nipple filing underneath, screw them in place. By screwing them, you will be carving a hole into the table cover, which is exactly the size that we need. Then unscrew them, remove the carved circle of table cover, and then rescrew them in, and the table cover is finished. Let's take it and bring it to our table frame. Center the tabletop on the frame, pull out the zip ties so that they can go around the 4 upper pipes of the frame, and then from underneath the table have every zip tie go through the second hole that we pierced into the table cover, and then inside the locking head, and tie them up. And the table top is perfectly nicely and very firmly fixed on the table frame. In the meanwhile, the glue on our elbow pegs and touch pegs magnets should have dried, so let's go back to them. For each elbow peg, starting from the bottom center, apply 4 stripes of duct tape, overlapping about an eighth of an inch on one direction and 4 on the other direction. Starting each stripe from the bottom of the peg, the joints will end up all on the bottom, and the peg will look way nicer once on the table. Don't mind if the duct tape is a little bit loosened in the beginning. The more you use it with heat and movement, it'll get way more flexible and will adhere perfectly to the elbow peg. Repeat the procedure for the other elbow peg, and then get the touch pegs and put along the long side 3 stripes starting from the side and overlapping about an inch, and then along the short side starting from the bottom of the peg where the magnets are 7 stripes overlapping about an eighth of an inch. Then if you want, mark on the bottom of each elbow peg and touch peg the position of the magnets, just to have a reference when you are going to put them on the table. And then, as already said, the magnets will attract the elbow pegs and touch pegs in position, and don't have any doubt, the magnets are super strong. They will hold all the pegs firmly and safely in position. You will be able to perfectly practice and train on the table, and also switch from left hand and right hand fast and without any issue. This was the very last step in this project, so now just bring the elbow pegs and touch pegs on the table, position them, and start using the table. That's the final result. As you can see, the table looks nice, sturdy, and very efficient. Try it out, and if you like the video and you like the project, please hit like and subscribe to the channel.